Hi, welcome back to Weatherford Daze. I'm Rachel, this is Jason, and we are in week 2 of Children's Musicals
Yes.
Month. Children's Musicals Month. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's a mouthful.
It works.
This week, we are going to be talking about probably one of the first musicals that I ever watched in my life.
Even before like Seven Brides and all
Oh, yeah.
those. Ooh.
This one is nostalgic for me. It really is. When I was from between like 3 to 5 years old, we were living in North Carolina
Mm-hmm.
and we lived in a house beside the most magical woman in the entire world, other than my grandmother's.
Hmm.
She was the ultimate adopted grandmother. She had a house that was a museum. All of these nooks and crannies and just stuff everywhere.
Tchotchkes.
Beautiful stuff, collections of everything. One of my favorite things that she had this lamp with like these crystals hanging off of it, and it threw rainbows all over the room. And
It's a little bit of Pollyanna there.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it reminded me of like later on when I saw Pollyanna, it reminded me of her.
Yep.
But her name was Mrs. Ayers, and she had this TV that it was one of those projector TVs, that had the different spotlights.
Oh, like the red, green,
Like
blue?
the red, green, blue spotlights
that's
on the
old
front.
school.
Yeah, and it was huge. And with the little lights on the front, and it was just the coolest experience ever to get to go to our next door neighbor's, Mrs. Ayers' house, and watch movies. And she had Annie, this movie, on video, and we would always watch it over at her house. That and I believe Mary Poppins were the two.
That's a good double feature.
Mm-hmm. So we would always go over there and we would watch one or the other of those movies, and it just was the coolest experience ever. And she always fed us the soft Chips Ahoy cookies.
A Toll House, kind of.
Yeah, like the soft ones though.
Yeah.
And I always thought those were like the best cookies ever. And that paired with, she made an orange juice mixture that was orange juice, apple juice, and pineapple juice mixed together. And it's absolutely delicious. Like, highly recommend. But that was like core memories from my childhood, was going over to her house and getting to explore through this museum of cool things and watching this movie. So, yeah.
Today we're talking about 1982's Annie, and this directed by John Huston, an actor and director who I'm very familiar with. So I was surprised that he did this because it doesn't seem like his style, but it definitely, I can see where it could be. But
What else has he done?
how long do you have? One of the movies that he directed was Treasure of Sierra Madre, and me and William did that on the podcast. And that Humphrey Bogart, just really good movie.
Huh.
But yeah, that'll be future watch. But no, I didn't have a lot of connection with this movie as a child. I think there must have been some girl that I knew who liked it a lot, was a huge fan, and had all the memorabilia. And I remember there was a picture book that was like of the movie. It would have all the stuff from the movie and scenes, and it would have behind the scenes, making of, and all that kind of stuff. And I thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, it was on Broadway, 1977. That's what this movie is based off of.
Mm-hmm.
But the Broadway play is based off of the comic strip. And I looked up what the comic strip had, and it was kind of slightly different from this. So,
I would imagine.
Yeah, there was a Mrs. Warbucks as well, and she was not nice. And it was just, there was a Mrs.
Aww.
Hannigan, but her name was Miss Treat. Yeah, you get the joke, mistreat, because she mistreated her. Yeah, it was very on the nose with that kind of thing.
Huh.
But again, don't worry about any of that. You don't have to know any of that stuff to enjoy this movie. So, what did you connect with? Because you had, as a child, when you went to see this movie, and it's just, on the bit on this projected screen.
It's just so good. And I think that that's something that even as a young child, seeing Annie and the struggles that she goes through and
Hmm.
just this kind of her finding a family, that is the best thing about it. And her dog. I mean, who can't love Sandy?
He's not a dumb dog. He's not. There's a song in there where she kind of says dumb dog, but no, he's the best. And
Mhm.
his name is not Rover. It's Sandy. There's actually the girls, the orphan girls, try to name him some name, and she's like, no, it's Sandy. Absolutely, he absolutely is a Sandy. But yeah,
It is so much bigger than real life in so many ways. Like, even the very ending scene where she's, climbing up the
what in
railroad
peril?
tracks
I
and they've
don't
got the
know how they did that.
helicopters and
I don't remember how they pulled that off. They had to have used like a stunt girl, like a stunt woman who's very short, because I don't know.
I
Sorry,
don't know, but it
I
just
was afraid for her, and I knew how
hey,
this movie ends.
when you're watching the movie, you're not thinking about how it's made. Well, I guess maybe you are. For
I
me,
was
I'm
like,
just
how
like
they pull that
so in the
off?
movie that
Yeah,
I'm experiencing all of the emotions that she does. Where, it's like, yes, somebody came in and rescued her, but she was so pivotal to her own rescue. Like, she was not just somebody that sat back and let life happen to her. She was
she
so strong.
she put herself in danger just to get away, and that was so scary because I was like,
Yeah, but even from the very beginning, like, you see her, she's constantly trying to run away,
yeah,
right, from Mrs. Hannigan.
yeah,
And she's trying to make a better life for herself. Even when Grace, right, comes, the
yeah,
secretary, to pick out an orphan, and Annie's like, "Hey, pick me," and giving her all of the information surreptitiously,
yeah.
like,
It's like, well, she
older,
has to be
red hair.
has to be happy, and she's like, ah ha ha ha, ah ha, so funny,
Yeah.
and then she like shoves her in the closet. But that's a great scene.
But then too, she advocated for herself and, for finding her parents. And, it would have been so easy at that point. After, she's gone through all of this, she's found somebody that she's truly fallen in love with, that loves her, that wants to adopt her. And she's like, but I've always dreamed that, I could find my own family. What if they're out there?
Yeah,
And they don't know where I am. I'm sure that something had to, she had created this whole narrative of her parents that had given her strength and hope. And she had to have that, finalized for herself. She wasn't able to move on until she had that confirmation, of where they were. Which, yeah, I'm probably botching the whole plot of the story. Do we need
yeah.
to go through the plot? Because I'm jumping from point to point here.
I can try to sum it up if you want to give it a shot.
Okay.
Annie is a plucky orphan, and she is in an orphanage run by the lush drunkard floozy. Is that no, Mrs. Hannigan? Yes, that's close. And she she's almost like she's very comforting to the other girls that are very sad. She cheers them up. She finds that silver lining in any dark cloud, no matter what. And she's tough too. She doesn't take any nonsense. They do work them pretty hard, and she is able to sneak out. The girls help her do that. She meets a dog named Sandy. She does get pulled back into the orphanage, correct?
Mhm.
And the dog goes there too. Mrs. Hannigan sees that and is very upset. There is a very rich capitalist man who made his living due to, I kind of guess, the war effort. Is that right? Is that what Warbucks? Oliver Warbucks. He is trying to fix his image a little bit with the help of his assistant Grace. And their thought is, we can have an orphan come to live with us for a week, and won't that just be wonderful? It'll show that we, we care about the future of the country, blah blah blah. And they do that, and they are able to get Annie and bring her in, and she has just what's a wonderful time. She is waited on hand and foot, but she's very humble about it. Kind of, I like that. It's not that she is pride filled at this. She thinks it's wonderful, and she just she's charmed by everybody she meets. They don't want to see her go when she eventually has to, but eventually, of course, Grace falls starting to fall in love with her too, and she meets Oliver Warbucks, and he wanted it to be a boy,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a girl, and she even says, it's okay. I'll go back if you want me to. I've had a wonderful time. And you're like, "Uh," okay, so help me out. What happens after that? She does go back, or they say, well, you can stay a little bit longer.
He agrees to let her stay.
Okay.
Yeah, but only for a week, right?
Right. He still agrees to the week
Right.
thing.
He agrees to the
He's like,
week.
we'll let it happen.
And so they end up kind of just giving her this magical time. She gets to play tennis. She gets to swim in the big swimming pool. They take her out to a movie.
That's right.
Yeah, she gets to go and fly with him in the helicopter to meet the
To meet the
president.
president, FDR.
Mm-hmm.
And FDR is wanting to really help the country out and give people hope and give them a job and give them pride. And she's all about that. And it kind of softens. It's starting to soften the exterior of Oliver Warbucks, and he is starting to he really likes her.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that softening of his heart. That's one of my favorite parts of the movie. Eventually, though, that she does want to kind of see where her parents are.
Well,
Is that right?
first he decides that he wants to adopt her.
Right.
And so he gets the adoption papers drawn up and gets her a necklace. And see, she has a broken locket
Yes.
that was left with her when she was left at the orphanage. That was from her parents. And it was a letter with it that said that, that they would have the other half of the locket and that they would always, keep her in their hearts, that kind of thing. So she had this locket that's a broken locket. And he doesn't know, that the locket is from her parents. He's just like, oh, she has a broken locket. Well, let's get her a new locket.
Right.
And so he presents her, with this new locket and asks, will you stay with me? I want to adopt you. And, she's like, no, this locket is from my parents. They have the other half of it. And that,
Closure. Needs a little bit of
right. She
closure with
goes,
that.
I've always dreamed that I would be able to find my real parents. I know they're out there looking for me. They left me this letter. And so she tells him no, that she would love to stay with him otherwise, but she needs to find her real parents. And so he goes, okay, well, we're going to find your real parents. And so they go on to a radio program and they announce, that there's going to be a reward and that, they're looking for her parents. So, of course, after that, tons of people come out and all line up and say that
And none
they're
of
her
them know about the
parents.
locket, and they would know about the locket if they were really her parents. They were
Right.
just kind of taking advantage of the situation. Of course,
Of
somebody else does
course,
too.
then you have the wonderful Rooster
Yeah, Rooster is Mrs.
enters.
Hannigan's brother, and
Hmm.
he has a girlfriend named Lily, and they all conspire to do this.
They
They
show up at the orphanage asking for Mrs. Hannigan's help
They have her
to
birth
be able
certificate too.
to,
Yeah, they forge it. Sorry.
right, to be able to convince them that they are actually really Annie's parents. And you find out that Mrs. Hannigan has known all along that Annie's parents are dead, that they were in a car accident and they had sent all of their things to her. And she had just never told Annie, which, like, that to me is like the worst thing of all. And I'm going, I don't know, that there's I'm conflicted with that
with
because
her
it's,
character.
yeah,
Yeah, with how
but
she's
because
portrayed.
it's like, for one thing, Annie having that hope of having her parents is what has kept her going all of this time. It's given her a mission and a purpose. But it's also the reason why she's kept on trying to escape, which has been driving Mrs. Hannigan crazy. And it's like at any point in time, she could have just told her, why wouldn't you do that? Why would you not, if you gave her the necklace and the letter originally, what was the motivation? Was it
Some kind of measure of control, maybe.
kindness? Was it control? Was it
Are you
spite?
saying she was trying to keep her from dark, sad
Yeah, you gotta
past?
wonder if she didn't want to see any, because you see at the very end that there is some measure of care
Deep down, there's a
for Mrs.
heart
Hannigan.
somewhere in there.
She doesn't want Annie harmed. So, which we probably do need to get to that because
Yeah.
okay. So Mrs. Hannigan has the other half of the necklace from Annie's parents because they had sent everything to her when the parents were killed. And so she gives that necklace to Rooster and his girlfriend,
Hmm.
and they are able to come and convince Mr. Warbucks that and Annie that they're actually the parents.
Right.
And they get the reward from him, which is what they wanted anyway. They get the check, and they take Annie and they start driving.
She very quickly
Well,
discovers, yeah.
she discovers because soon after they pull out of the gate, Mrs. Hannigan jumps in the car.
Right.
And Annie's like, "What's going on?" And they're like, "Yay, we got the check," and they start celebrating that they've pulled this off and they've gotten the reward. And she's like, "You're not actually my parents," and she starts panicking. And, but they're like, very quickly you see that they don't care anything about her. They tell her to shut up and threaten her.
While they were plotting with Mrs. Hannigan, the youngest orphan girl and some of the other girls
Right.
discover. And while this is all happening, it's a they, long way. They finally make their way
Yeah.
to
Which
Daddy
that is
Daddy
such an
Warbucks.
epic scene because they get caught. Like Mrs. Hannigan realizes that they overhear and she shoves them all in a closet, locks them in.
Yes.
And they end up going like through the ceiling. They get a
Yeah.
ceiling panel out.
Ingenuity.
Yeah, and end up getting up onto the roof and then climbing down the gutters
Yeah.
of this, like tying
Well, this is for Annie. You
bedposts
gotta
together.
you gotta go
Yeah.
hardcore.
And they start heading, across the city just on foot
Yeah, if that
to go
wasn't
and warn
enough,
them.
they're going like
Yeah.
they're just so tired and they go like, we gotta keep going.
So they get there, not long after Annie has left with the others and tell Daddy Warbucks, that they're bad people. They aren't Annie's parents, and so then he sets out to rescue her.
Well, he knows the head of the FBI himself, and so
Right.
calls him up and goes, "J. Edgar, get to it right away." Get him on.
Yeah.
It's
So
like,
they've then got, the entire police force out. They've got
the
helicopters and
bodyguard and the
everything.
autocopter. Yeah, yeah,
Right. Searching. But then Annie is able to get them to pull over. She tells them she has to go to the
yeah,
bathroom.
yeah.
And so they pull over. She grabs the check from Rooster
Oh, yeah.
and kicks him and takes off running. And then she actually tears up the check, which just
That's
infuriates him. At that point, he's like, "I'm going to kill you."
yeah,
And that's when you see Mrs. Hannigan actually going, "No, wait, no, you can't kill her."
yeah.
And so,
And Rooster slugs her, which is
right.
like, yeah,
Yeah. So she's like, "No, I'm going to stop you." And he hits her, knocks her out, and goes after Annie. And then, you see that scene where she's climbing up these railroad ties and he's coming up after her. And that's when they actually spot her in the helicopter climbing up and him chasing after, and he actually catches up to her and starts trying to pull her off
Yeah.
and he almost like it's just
It's harrowing.
it's harrowing.
But the
But
bodyguard is
yeah,
awesome, and he helps
Punjab.
her. Punjab.
Yes.
He helps her save the day,
It's
and
like he uses his turban. He
turban.
unwinds his
Yeah,
turban, he lowers himself down and grabs her and then kicks the other guy and like knocks him down.
yeah,
So,
and the cops get him, and I
right.
think they do actually catch up with Lily. She ran down the way. They do. Looks like
Mhm.
they'd catch her too.
Yeah.
And all's well that ends well.
Yep.
He did adopt her, and it appears because you see the orphan girls at the end, they're dressed in very lovely clothes.
Mhm.
And my headcanon, without even reading the novelization, my headcanon was they got adopted
They
as
all
well.
get
That's a
adopted.
huge house. It's a
Yeah.
huge house. So and Sandy's there, everybody's there, and it's like a party. There's fireworks, there's elephants, there's people on
Mm.
stilts or something. I don't know what
Yeah.
or were they on unicycles? I don't know. It
Acrobats
was
and
all a
yeah.
blur, and it's just and you finally see Daddy Warbucks, doing a little soft shoe. It's nice, and of
Together
course,
at
together at
last.
last,
Yeah.
and Mrs. Hannigan even comes in on an elephant. So basically, I guess all is forgiven a little bit. We'll see, but she's got kind of a mother figure too now in Grace, and
Mhm.
they'll probably tie the knot, I'm sure.
Well, they showed that he proposes to her. She has a ring with him. Mhm.
Oh yeah, I missed that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and of course, I was telling Rachel that the thing I like most about the movie is the thing that sticks with me long after. And again, I'm a big fan of 1930s movies and that old school kind of. She knows that about me.
Mhm.
40s and 30s, that kind of that genre, that feel. I'm big on that. But the music, I find myself singing those songs and singing the lyrics actually to them. Whereas I don't do that with too many other movie musicals, but you know, catchy as all get
Mhm.
out. And the dancing's fun too. It's fun visually to watch. It's 2 hours, but it goes by so quick, and you still feel like you're in that world. But the characters are memorable, and the music is memorable. That's my
The
take on it.
characters, the music, I think that just all around there's nothing bad about the movie. You have so many interesting characters. You've got
Couple of curse words, but it's PG. So, but yeah,
but
yeah.
you
It's
the
mild.
plot
Yeah,
is just so good.
yeah,
It's everything that is it just kind of encapsulates, America and resilience
mm,
and all of the good things that you kind of want to strive for. It's the, being able to look at those orphans versus people who have everything, it's the found family. It's the drastic difference between extreme wealth and poverty and what that does to people and those two worlds kind of colliding
yeah.
and just how goodness and kindness can be found in the most unlikely places.
Also, hope is not necessarily hope because you have the thing that you're waiting on, a patient waiting. Because even though in the song Tomorrow,
Hmm.
she talks about, she says, the day is gray and you feel lonely, but you still stick out your chin and you grin. So you change your complexion, you change your outlook on it before you even see the sun
Hmm.
coming up. Because she didn't say the sun's, oh, I just snapped my fingers, the sun is up now. She's saying that you're going to have to wait,
There's always tomorrow.
but tomorrow will come.
Hmm.
And you just give it some time and you change your attitude about it. And in a way, like you said, that's what the Great Depression was a time of darkness
Hmm.
and it was gray in people's minds. No matter what the color was around, it was gray in their minds, and there was no hope. There will come, the sun will rise again. And I think that's that plucky spirit that has always gotten America through. And she represented that a little bit to an extent, but it's not that she's a kid. She doesn't exist to represent anything but just be herself.
The kind of, when you hear about Annie, it's like the plucky young orphan who inspires a nation, right? And she really did. That story, it moves people. There is just something so compelling about this young girl who has experienced so much hardship. You get from the very first, or was it the second song? It's a hard knock life for
That's
us.
the second song. The first one, I think, she is refrained a couple times. It's the maybe.
Right.
Uh, yeah, which talks about it. I have this little prayer, the
Hmm.
best one of. I don't know the lyrics, and I said I knew the lyrics. Okay, if I had the lyrics, I could read them. But that's the second song. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was so catchy. Well, it's so catchy. Even people that don't even know Annie will be like, "I know that
It's
song
hard knock
because it
life.
was remixed." Yeah,
Yeah.
people were like, "I know that." See, that's how pop. That's how in the zeitgeist it is. But yeah,
Hmm.
so
I think that It's a Hard Knock Life for Us and Tomorrow are probably the two biggest songs. The one that gets stuck in my head, though, as well as Let's Go to the Movies. Just that scene is so big.
yeah,
You've got, it's like, this is not a normal movies experience. You've got
no, it
these
kind of
dancers who are coming
Ziegfeld
out and
Follies,
yeah.
the dancers, the Rockette looking kind of
Mhm.
situation. But the thing that got me is he's so rich he can be like, oh, just rent the whole theater out. I just wanted to just be me, her, and Grace. And I was like, what is that like? I've never done that before. It's always you got to go and you sit next to the regular people
But the
and
thing
watch a film.
is you can tell that even though he lives in, a mansion, he still is not somebody that just is wasteful with his money typically. It really, him doing that was him going, this is worth spending money on. I am going to treat her and just kind of pour what I have on her because she's worth it. And that scene right there is really the flipping of him just kind of being indifferent to her and tolerating her presence to, she's actually touched his heart at that point and he's going, okay, you know what? I'm going to do something spectacular.
Yeah, but the part that gets me is when the parents drive off with Annie, and he does the
Mhm.
refrain of the Maybe song where he says, she was almost my baby, and I was like, okay, I will tell you this right now. I will tell you this right now. Before I got married, before I had kids, movies about, and they still touch me to this day, but movies about fathers and sons touch me. They in the feels, but they touch me in the feels different now because I have two sons. I also have two daughters. But a movie where a father is touched, where he doesn't know he's a father, and then he's met with this wonderful girl, and he's like, I want to be her dad. And I'm just like, it it
Girl
didn't,
dad is a special relationship
yeah,
for
it didn't
sure.
hit me before I had kids and had two daughters. So I would think movies change as time changes for you. I think that's, when you think about what legacy you leave for your children, and if there's movies about that where a father is sacrificing his life for his children so they can live and go forward, and it's like that hits a little more home to me than before I got married and had kids. And movies are going to touch people differently at different times of their life. So whereas my first go round, I was like, oh, it's one of those movies. But I think Annie changed for me as I had kids because I related a lot to more so Daddy Warbucks, as he's affectionately known, and Grace. I related to them and their relationship, and her just Grace just you know opening up and just becoming just this like she's like my true self is now I can be my true self because of my love for Annie,
Mm.
and then you see the love that Oliver has for her, but he's also very kind as well. Like when she's crying about the movie, he has the hanky right there ready
Mm.
for her, like he knows that she's going to cry and that it's going to touch her heart, and he's just it just sounds like a small touch, but he's like, I do care, and he's got that rocky exterior, but underneath that, it's you see he's got a heart.
Definitely one of the themes of this movie is that it's not all about money
Yeah,
and it's not all about poverty. Like the most important thing is actually loving and caring for other people. And through, you're seeing at the beginning almost this caricature within Mr. Warbucks as somebody who's just kind of unfeeling. He's all about business and making the money and doing his important big rich person thing.
yeah,
And through the relationship with Annie and with Grace, you're seeing him soften and become actually a person. And he's realizing that the most important thing in life is not money. The most important thing in life is having somebody else that you care about, that you love. And he's going, there was this hole in my heart that you filled. You're the puzzle piece that
yeah,
I was missing.
yep.
And that's just, there's a humanizing that happens with this rich man where you realize that Annie didn't care about his money. Sure, the things were nice, they were spectacular, they were cool. What she wanted was love. What she deserved was love. And that was what she ended up getting from him as he realized that, it wasn't just what his money could provide for her. It was that relationship. She needed a father. She needed somebody to care for her. Her little heart was desperate for affection. And
Even for
that was the thing that he could
she
provide.
was so desperate that even possible parents she
Mhm.
was grasping for. And it's like you wouldn't even have known them, and they would barely have known you. And there's but that
Mhm.
she wanted that traditional mom and father figure because that's what kids are supposed to have a family. And who knew that it was going to come in a different way than she expected.
Mhm.
She didn't expect it would be like it would be Daddy Warbucks and Grace. She didn't expect that. That's how it ended up.
'Cause the dream is never for riches.
Yeah,
The dream is love.
and a sense of belonging.
Mhm.
You know, she had a family as well with the orphan girls too. They kind of looked to her, even though she's like not too much older than them. But
There
especially with
were
Molly, looks up to
ones that
her.
were older than she was.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
she would kind of butt heads with some of them, but in a kind of a playful way, or I guess big sister kind of situation. You know, but you see where all their hearts are as you go. They I think that when Daddy Warbucks is faced with I might lose her, he's just like, I don't we're taking the copter, we're taking the car. This is just pulling we're gonna pull out all the stops and get the FBI on this. This is not gonna stand.
Mhm.
And especially when he knows, hey, they aren't her real parents.
Mhm.
He's like he had his thoughts that maybe they weren't on the up and up. When he gives him the check, he's like, "You're doing this a little bit," and you're kind of,
Well, I think that he believed that they were her parents, but he didn't, just because they're her parents doesn't necessarily make them
good.
good
Yeah,
people.
yeah,
And he
right.
he got that from them, that they were seeming very mercenary there. All
Yeah,
about the money, so it was a test that, he's going, are they going to take care of her, or what is the deal? If and there That's always the question, for an adult. Yet for her, she's making up all of these stories of why they couldn't come back to her and get her.
Yeah.
But, for an adult, it's kind of the thing of, yeah, at this point, if they could have, they would have.
Yeah.
If you've actually got
Money or no.
people who are coming and saying, what is the real story here? Why didn't they ever come back to get her? Why are they only coming now when there's money involved?
Right.
You
And that's not, and the thing is, he has all the money, and what he wants is Annie,
Right.
because she's a wonderful kid, and it's something that all his money couldn't buy, and was under his nose the whole time, because Grace really did care about him, and he didn't. I don't know if he fully saw it, or maybe he kind of didn't really think about it too much. It's not something you do, but he, I think he kind of saw that, but yeah.
So, major theme
Hmm.
in Annie is that optimism. We kind of talked about it a little bit with Mrs. Hannigan and how she handled Annie's parents'
Like
death.
the truth of all that.
Right. That is one that, I go, what made Annie? I mean, one of the pivotal things about her is this hope and optimism that she had, right? And it seemed like it was uncrushable, that no matter what she faced, that's just a facet of who she is. But what makes that possible? You know, how do you is that just something that you have or you don't have? Or is it something that you choose? How does somebody like Annie, in the situation that she was in, choose that hope so that it just shone out of her and affected everybody that she came into contact with? Like, how do we get that? Obviously, this is a fictional character, but how do we get that in real life?
Could it have gone differently for her? Like if Mrs. Hannigan was truthful and told her that her parents had died, that hope would have been
Mm.
snuffed out. And would she have that optimism and hope to then pass on to the other kids and encourage them? And they wouldn't have somebody who would be their ally and on their side, and them getting through this hard knock life that
I
they
like to
lived through.
think that even if she had been told that that still was such a facet of her personality, that it would have just shifted to something else. That she
Hmm.
still would have had that hope and
Okay.
optimism. You see at the very end, when she does realize that these aren't her parents, and, she then finds out the story. Like, obviously, we don't see her finding out the full story, but you have to think that it
She
came
pieces it
out.
together. Yeah.
Right. I mean, she's then, you see Mrs. Hannigan at the end. So obviously, something had to have been told with knowing that that locket, the other piece of the locket,
Yeah.
she had to have found out. And she still is able to smile and laugh and sing, the sun will come out tomorrow. And it doesn't crush her.
Right.
So I kind of go, it just seems like it was a part of her. And it was something that she fed. And maybe that is the key. I think that, yeah, I think that that may be the thing that we just have to, if we can take anything from this movie of going, whatever circumstance we find ourselves in, if we choose hope, if we choose to feed it, to nourish it, rather than telling ourselves those negative things and those lies, if we choose to find the positive in every situation, then we can be like Annie. I think that that really
But
did shape my
but
childhood.
what's your hope in ultimately? You know, our hope has to be in God,
Mhm.
because if your hope is in this world is a dark and sick place in some ways. But it's also a place where good can flourish. And I think it's when you feed the good that God put in every man's heart to go after, that you're fulfilling your purpose. And you may not even believe in the God that put that in your heart, but every man's given a measure of faith. Every man has a little bit of that seed in their heart to plant.
Mhm.
And for me, our hope has to be that God has a plan for all this. We may not understand it on this side of things, but we know that it has all come to good, and it will continue to do that. And God has put within us the ability to do good, but only because we're part of Him and working through Him,
You know, it
or He's
kind of
working
does
through us.
remind me of the conversation that I had with my brother this week. He called just, kind of chatting about the Epstein files and how just huge and horrific those
And
are.
demoralizing.
Right. And you sit here and you look at something like this that just seems like everybody is complicit, that everybody knew that these horrible things were going on and they turned away, that just part of the horrible thing with all of these files coming out was how good Epstein was at getting dirt on people and blackmailing people to be quiet so that he could continue this stuff and know that nobody's ever gonna come out because he had enough dirt on everybody to keep them quiet. That was how he got away with it for so long. And, when you look at that much darkness in the world, in, these places of these people in these positions of power that should be using that power for good and instead are just compromising left and right. It's like how can we maintain hope that things will ever change, that things will ever get better in America? There's just so much evil that it seems like, you know, it just seems like there's no hope. And that really is, for me I went, well, I know as a Christian that there is someone in charge that is only going to tolerate this evil for so long. I know that He has a plan. I know that things are going to get worse before they get better. But even though it seems like there's so many people that are evil, you also can look at how many people are good. How many people would not be willing to be compromised? How many people are just living their day to day life doing the everyday acts of kindness and of goodness? And there's way more people doing that than there are doing evil. As long as there are people who are still good and kind and compassionate and living their lives trying to be like Christ, and daily surrendering their lives to Him and to what He has asked us to be, there will always be hope in this world. And I think that I can trust that when that balance does tip over to where there just aren't enough good people in the world anymore, then it's like, okay, well, come back, you know come, Lord Jesus. And we know that that's going to happen. There is that hope.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, what a real man does is no matter the blowback that comes, you make a stand and you make the honorable and right decision. And it doesn't matter that it affects you negatively for standing up. You do it. And that's where it is. And if you're just trying to save your own neck or trying to, keep your head down, this will all blow over. God knows. God knows the decisions you make. God knows the heart. And for me, I want the good and I want the bright. I know there's darkness, but ultimately I want to see the sun rise again and a lonely gray day break as the sun comes over the horizon. That's what I want to see. I want to see that both in my life, in real life. I love to see the sun rise on a new day. You can make new decisions and better decisions, and you can step up and try to walk the right path with God's help, of course, better than you did the day before. But I want to see that happen in the hearts of man, and to make the better decision, the higher decision, and that's my hope. And however you're inspired, whether it be from a little musical movie from 1982, if you get inspired by that and feel some hope over that, that's wonderful. But however you find that, find that in the good, find that in the holy, find that in the uplifting, and yeah.
But also know that just like Annie, you when you nurture that hope, when you feed it, it really does spread and change the world. Like when we are people that carry joy inside of us, that comes from believing that there is hope, that the sun will come out tomorrow, that that's only a day away, that, your present circumstances don't define you. That is one of the most powerful things that, people can see that in you and they're inspired themselves to then feed their own hope. And that spreads so fast and so far. Like there's such power in that. So I think that that's a wrap. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, if you are needing a little hope today, go watch Amy. It's a good one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And and if you've never seen it before, you will find yourself humming the catchy tunes long after the movie's over.
Mhm.
The kind of the old school way that it's filmed and put together, like they used to do with the films of old, those musicals way back in the day. But I think the music and the lyrics and what they can mean, if you really think about it, those stuck with me long after the movie was over.
Mhm.
So
We will see you guys next time with another Kids Musical.
yeah.